Age. Hey friends, welcome. It is week 3, lecture 1. Oh my goodness, the time is flying by. We are already in week 3. I feel like I say that every week 3. The first couple weeks we're getting to know each other. You guys are getting to know JavaScript, and now we are starting to get into the thick of it, really understanding React, and then we can move forward there. There's quite a few things I want to get to from a housekeeping perspective. Then we'll look at where we're going to go today. We'll do a quick recap of what we talked about sort of last week, which is going to be brought into today. And then we will talk about higher order function, callback functions, and lifting state potentially if we get there. We'll talk all about that, more probably the theory of lifting state. It's not a super difficult concept, but just want to make sure that you guys have ample time with that. And we'll see where we're going to be going this week as well. Quite a bit of fun stuff. If everybody could mute, that would be awesome. Just hear a little bit of a feedback on my end. So perfect. Great. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm the problem. Call me T Swift. Okay. Just a little bit of everything. We got some discussion questions that due Sunday, 11:59. It's either PST or PDT. Honestly, I don't know anymore. I think we voted that we were going to get rid of daylight savings time, but I don't know when that's going to be implemented. So just, kind of look up, what time is it or whatever, do the math and then make sure that you're there. Make sure you guys are doing discussion questions. Those, again, are already open for all of week 4, all the way through week 4. And then starting next week or starting week 5, I'll have them from 5 to 8. So please make sure that you guys are really diving in and doing those. You do have one core assignment this week. I just want to give you a little bit of a preemptive statement. Is it a challenging assignment? So I wouldn't wait until the last minute to do it. It is one. We're going to tackle some of the more challenging stuff on tomorrow and Thursday. There's a couple nuancy things that we'll try to tackle or do something with, just because there's things that transparently you're not really going to need for the belt exam. But they're good things to know, but it isn't presented well, and it's one of these assignments that's like, go out and do some research, and that can be daunting. So that way we're not kind of freaking out or panicking. We'll make sure that you get some of the information, whether that's through office hour or through class itself, to make sure that you are fully set up to take care of to-do lists. So please know there is going to be certain things. Really, the biggest challenge is using CSS combined with this to kind of manipulate, and using state, and then based on the state, doing certain CSS, which we learned how to do. It's just a ternary operator, but it can be sort of overwhelming. That 2 official check-ins I wanted to do. First one is yesterday. You should have received an email either saying, hey, you're crushing it, you're a rock star, all is well, you're good on discussion questions, you're good on assignments, or hey, you're crushing it, you're a rock star, but we need you to pick it up a little bit, you're falling a little bit behind. Or, hey, you're a rock star, but I need you to really pick it up because now you're on probation. So that was our first official check-in. That happens every other week. And so if you were really, really stressed, it's okay. If you find yourself either falling behind, or even if you find yourself on probation, that's not the end of the world. Just a couple of reminders for you. If you are on probation, you get 3 of those throughout your entirety of Coding Dojo before you're up for dismissal. What dismissal means is that, they will talk to me and they'll say, hey, are they ghosting? Are they non-existent? Or are they trying this? Maybe life happens, or did they communicate to you? And so if you've communicated to me, I'll communicate that and you won't be up for dismissal. But obviously, if you guys you wouldn't be here right now if you were ghosting. But if you were ghosting, then it would, that's kind of where I'm like, I don't know. I haven't heard from the human. So that's all that is. Again, you get 3 of those. So if you did find your first one, it's not a blemish. Just kind of be cognizant of, okay, if I do this 2 more times, then I could be up for dismissal and it becomes an issue. If you guys have any issues, obviously email me, CC Gray on there, and kind of let us know. And obviously, if it's super personal, you can just email me. And just that way, there's multiple people kind of going to bat for you, if you will. So that was the first official check-in. The second one is, I just wanted to check in, and maybe you guys can put on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing? Transparently, this is the week that I feel like students really start to stress out. I don't know if you've looked ahead of time at your assignments or what's due, or if you're sort of trying to catch up from last week. So maybe in the chat, if you guys could just put at a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, I love React, I never want to do anything different, this is amazing. 1 being like, LOL, I hate everything. Just kind of see how you're doing, and that way we can identify and see, okay, what are some things. And it's really normal, especially in this one, to be at like a 5 is a little bit low, 4 or 5. That's okay. A little bit low doesn't mean that that's inherently bad or that you can't do it. It just is, we want to make sure that way Gray and Paul and I can look and say, okay, just like Gray was saying in office hour, is there anybody that needs a little bit of help? And this is also me kind of coming out and saying, if you need help, please, please, please don't wait for us to come and ask if you need help. If you need help, please reach out to us. Go to Dojo Hall, reach out to Gray or Paul or myself, and just say, hey, I'm not doing well and I'm struggling. This is hard. Just being blatantly honest, especially React, there's a lot of stuff going on. And whenever we build in a backend, even more. And it's more than you've probably ever learned at Coding Dojo, because again, it is sort of 2 classes, right? It is, or sort of 2 languages. You have React, and then we're gonna have a whole backend that we haven't even touched, and a brand new database that you guys have no idea about, because it's nothing like Java's or Python's, or if you come from web fundamentals, you didn't even deal with a database. And so it's very normal. I just want to normalize, if you are feeling overwhelmed or stressed, this is a very normal time. That does not mean that you can't do it. That does not mean that you are unique, and that React, well, you are unique, you're amazing, but that React like just doesn't come to you, but it comes to everybody else. This is very okay. This is very normal. What I will say though, is I do have tons of times that students will come to me, and it happened twice last stack, where a student came to me and was like, hey, I think I need a retake. I'm just not getting it. And instead of doing that, we came up with a game plan, and they met with Gray and then met with myself and said, okay, this is the time. This is where people feel overwhelmed. Let's have a game plan. Maybe we communicate a little bit more. Maybe we meet up occasionally. And then those 2 people actually ended up black belting the exam, and they crushed it. And so if you're thinking that right now, I promise you, there's still plenty of time for you to learn. We will do everything we can. And just, but we can't do anything if you don't communicate to us. So if you do feel that, please make sure you're reaching out to us. We want to help. And also, the reason I ask people to put it in chat is just because maybe you're at, even a 3 or a 4, and you're like, oh man, I'm the only human that isn't out of 10. And then you see, like, actually not everybody's out of 10. Some people are at 11. That's awesome. Some people at 7, some people at 3, at 4. Everybody's different, and your learning styles are different. So please, please, please be kind to yourself, and just allow us to sort of help you in any way that we can. I would say if you're under a 5, please reach out to Gray or Paul or I, and just kind of, not anything bad, but we want to make sure that, hey, right now, especially while you only have 1 core assignment due this week, though it is a doozy, this is a great time to kind of hone in on some of those skills. And so, and then also it allows me to, if there's things that I'm missing or things that I could implement more, and this is always, right, an open door. If there's anything I can implement to help your strategy, you guys talked about visuals. We're going to talk about some visuals today, try to do that. Some people said to show what we're going to do ahead of time. I'm trying to build that in. So if your learning style is anything different, or if there's anything I'm not doing that your learning style or the way you learn, you would really benefit from that, please let me know. And I want to tailor my lecture to make sure that everybody has the best opportunity to learn. Sound good? If you just put a 1 in the chat, if that makes sense. I'm done with my rant. Yes, black belt, you do need to deploy.
Just for my 2-second rant.
Yeah, go ahead, Gray.
It's okay that you don't like React. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't like Python at first, and then now I'm getting so good in Python, like data science all the way. But React will always have a special place in my heart. So it's okay. This is the time that you're figuring out what languages you like, and understand that, especially if you were a good student, you've always been a studious student, or whatever the case may be, and you're not doing as well, it's because like that is normal. That is absolutely normal. It's like when if anyone drives, or like learning how to ride a bike or something like that, it looks hard the first time. You fall down so many times. I'm not gonna give you my bike story, but anywho, but but it looks really like this isn't for you. It really does. But you have to remember your why, strength through struggle, absolutely. But just understand that that's part of the process, that this is not going to be easy. Like, just understand that it's an uncomfortable feeling, but you're going to be okay. I was not that good. I was just a regular student, regular degular, okay? And every single day I coded. Coded made me cry a few times, I'm not gonna lie. But
Yeah.
you have to keep going. You have to keep going. Well said, like if you spend 20 minutes doing something every day for a year, you will probably, I think it would a 90% percentile of just being able to do this really good thing, whatever the case may be. So just say that to
Yeah.
say that for this very moment, it looks like it sucks and it's like, oh man, I can't do this. But hard work beats talent every single time. Keep coding, keep practicing, keep reading up on this. Documentation made no sense to me, but I kept on reading and it came easy. So please, I offer extra study sessions. I'm asking you for Grace Hour. I will take your suggestions and I'll make sure. Post your question in chat. Hey, I'm struggling. I don't get this. Let your classmates know so you guys could have a study group. Shout out to like Jared and his crew that's always in, and Tony and all of them that's always in the dojo hall. They're always doing their thing and studying together and helping one another out. I think Alex Font is a part of that crew. Do that. Find your own study crew. So understand that we're here. It's hard. It's supposed to be hard, but we're here to help and assist you as best as we can. So that's my little rant. So hopefully that encourages you that yes, it's hard right now, but it will get better. Just keep practicing. So that's all.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Gray. And I'm going to be honest. I want to address the elephant in the room. I acknowledge that the platform, compared to especially other languages, is lacking. I had a meeting today where I pitched a curriculum that this needs to be better. I just have not taken over the MERN section, but have come into, I launched the Python stuff and then I'm coming over to MERN. And I realized that is the case. And I just want to validate what you guys are saying. I understand that. I am working to get that to be better. I am working to get more videos on the platform. I'm working to get more solutions on the platform to make the curriculum smooth. Had a meeting today with our head of curriculum where I'm trying to work on that. The reality is that unfortunately, you guys probably will never see the fruits of that labor. And I'm sorry for that. I wish I could change it, right? I wish I could do anything I can, but that's why Gray and I do Gray's Hour. Gray does extra office hours. That's why in office hours, normally most instructors don't teach, especially within MERN, don't teach an additional sort of topic or something or go more in depth in office hour, but we are trying our best, as best as we can, to make up for that lack. So if you're feeling frustrated, that's a valid frustration. I'm sorry. I wish I could change it. I wish I wrote, well, not that I wrote the curriculum like I'm a brilliant human being, but I wish that it was better. And I'm working really, really hard so that way it does get better. That's why we're just trying to be as in-depth as we can throughout this office hour or throughout these lectures, but still trying to manage the time if people need to have questions they have. So if you're feeling frustrated, I'm sorry, I'm with you. I'm frustrated. We're trying to do this. Yes, if we get this curriculum updated, you will have, after you graduate, you get access to your stacks that you took. You will have access to that. So we are trying really, really hard. And if there is anything else that specifically you're like, the platform really sucked at explaining this, shoot me a message, shoot Gray a message, shoot Paul a message, and then in office hours we can try to do that. So really trying, but also just didn't want to gloss over, because I get it. It's frustrating. And this happened in my last step too, where students were frustrated, and it's valid and that's true. And I'm sorry. I really, really do try to give you as much as I can, just of myself and of, the TAs doing the same thing. Like nobody ever, Gray's the only person that does extra that I know of. And I've had a lot of TAs. So just want to you guys are crushing it there, or Gray's crushing it there. So just really, really, really wanted to say that and acknowledge that if you are frustrated, that's valid. And I'm sorry, I wish I could do something about it, but we're doing something about it. It just might not move as quickly as possible. So, okay, cool. That's my little rant. Also, if you just want to yell and be frustrated, feel free to just schedule a meeting with me and I'll just sit and listen. If you need to get it out to somebody, I can be there too. I'm a great soundboard. So, except if you ask my wife, then I'm like trying to solve stuff and she's like, stop it, dude. I just need you to chill. I don't know if anybody ever does that. Like their friends like, oh, here's this problem. And you're like, oh, here's the answer. And they're like, I don't want an answer. I just want to say that there's a problem. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm so dang. Anyways, now I'm ranting, I'm panicking, sweating. No, it's freezing in my room. Okay. Anyways, let's go ahead and move forward. Also, just want to let you guys know that in our class calendar, there's a GitHub link. So this will be the GitHub link that should have all of our class code there. So I had a little bit of an issue. I don't know if you remember last week, I put week 2 stuff within week 3, so I had to go in and change that, but I've added everything now. So this is all of our code. And so I'll just every day after class, I will make sure that I post this to the code. You might see something like lecture 1 and then lecture 1 in class. That's because, especially for ones that I'm trying to show, where I'm trying to show like, hey, what's going to happen moving forward. Those are the ones where I have to have 2, and that way I can build, because I build basically 2 classes and then kind of have a solutions page and do that. So if you have trouble navigating that, please feel free for that. There, cool. Also, just want to let you guys know, and this has happened a couple times now, so I want to make sure I address it, that if you go on the platform and are dealing with, if you come here, let's see, let me go navigate. If you guys are looking for lectures, yes, there are only 1 or 2 per day, right? That is the most recent. So mine, wherever mine will go, it's like today, mine will go right here, but then you have Cadence. If you want more of those, you just go to those bonus lectures. And then in bonus lectures, you go to archive playlists, and here's all of the playlists. So here was my last one. So February, so this is all 8 weeks, all 8 weeks, all 8 weeks, all the way through here. So there's plenty of material. So it did move. We tried to clean it up. That way it wasn't so overwhelming for students, but just wanted to point out that is in bonus lectures. And then within bonus lectures is the archive playlist. And then you can see and just come here. And this will be, I think it's like 40 videos. Yeah. Here's all of my everything that I did all of last stack. So if you guys do need that as well, if you want to move ahead, or like Tabitha, when you're in India, like this will help you as well. Cool. Just really wanted to point that out. Cool. Great. Any questions, any thoughts before to move it to the wrong class schedule? No, should be here. I'm not sure. I'll put this in the chat, but Tabitha, I'm not exactly sure where you are, but I can do that for you. Sorry, Tabitha just asked for that sheet. Yeah, okay. Oh, thanks, JC, you already did it. Okay, wonderful. 20-minute rant over, let's get to coding. So last week we talked all about forms, right? And we even completed some forms. And today, this is what we're doing. I've already got it up and running because you guys said, you guys had expressed that is a way to learn. But really, all we did last week was we had this form, we created a change handler, we handled state, we were able to access all of that information. And then what we're wanting to do now, and this is something that we haven't added in, is we want to be able to say something like Shrek 2001 comedy, and then I want it to show up on the right. Right? I want it to show up my information. In this case, if I'm looking at this and I right click and I go to inspect and I come here to my component section and I look, we will see that within my form, I've got 2 pieces of state. I have this movie that in this case is just title, year, genre. And then in this case, we've got an actual list or array of movies. So I could do another one like Mario movie. I don't know what it's actually called, 2023. And then we'll say comedy as well, where if I do this, we can see my states being updated as I'm typing, as it's changed, right? And then when I submit it, it now goes into this array right here, and then our state is cleared. So that's what we're going to work on today. There's two main things that we need to do here. Really, actually, one is we need to look at our functions, and we're going to introduce this concept of higher order functions and callback functions. And then from there, we're going to use a higher order function called map to actually iterate through a list or array, sorry, of different objects within JavaScript. So that's what we're going to do. So that's what we're going to move towards today. So let me, on my terminal, let me click out of this. Okay. Okay. So I want to go to our code and just kind of go over also what we've done in this, and then we will sort of build it all in together. I haven't done anything. I know that some of you guys have been asking. I will probably copy and paste some form stuff, or I'll just pull up that other code and we can kind of look at that. But I want to encourage you guys to, or first off, let's talk about our higher order functions and callback functions, because this is going to be something that is common in JavaScript. It's something to know and to learn. There's going to be just a couple definitions, and then from there we're going to talk about map and filter, which are going to be the two main ones that we're going to do, and the ones that you'll use, especially for your belt exam. Those are really kind of the two that you need. But there's I do want to, kind of blatantly say there are quite a few higher order functions that you can use and different ones to do and to use. Okay, cool. So I think just to make it easy, I've created a couple functions here where I've got add, and all it does is it takes in two values, two arguments, right? And all it does is it returns, obviously, as the name implies, the addition or the sum of the two arguments it takes in. Same thing with subtract, but it subtracts them, multiplies, and divides. Makes sense, right? Well, we have this idea of a higher order function, and I wrote a higher order function is a function that takes the function as an argument or returns a function. And so we're really going to hammer and sort of sit on this thing, on this idea of a function that takes a function as an argument. That really in itself is what we're going to focus on for a higher order function. The way you can think about it is if you've got a function that takes in a function as an argument, the function that takes in the function is considered the higher order function. And the function that is being passed in as an argument is what we call a callback function. So again, for example, let's say that I've got this function of add here. I can run something like add 2, 5, right? And if I were to console log this, console.log, if I were to do this, I would see that I just get the number 7, right? Very basic, very easy. Now, what if I had a bigger function? And maybe, and this is an idea that maybe I want to, I don't want to hard code as much, right? I want to be able to have some sort of functionality that whether my user wants to add or subtract or multiply or divide, I can have this idea of a calculator. So I have this calculator function. It takes in 3 arguments. It takes in A and B, just like the other ones. But then it takes in this third argument called operator. And that's what we called it. This could be called unicorn if we want it. Doesn't matter, right? Obviously, this could be A, B, cupcake if we want it. It doesn't matter what it is. But what this argument does is it takes on the functionality of this function. So what I mean by that is within this function of calculator, this is my higher calculator is my higher order function. And operator is my callback function. So what that means is within this function, I can call operator, and operator will then apply whatever functionality I passed in, and I have access to this function's functionality. Kind of said functionality and function all in the same. Let's see what I mean here. If I've got this function called calculator and it takes in A and B, we're just going to assume that these are just numbers, just like A and B are here, right? Now, what this is doing is I can say, oh, do I want to divide A and B? Do I want to multiply them, subtract them, or add them? And so by passing an operator as my argument, it takes the place of whatever I'm wanting to do. So in this case, the top one I'm adding. And so what it will do, if I play this, we'll see, it gives me 15, right? It takes in, and let's kind of break this down. What it's doing is calculator is taking in 10 and 5. And then where operator is, we passed in the function of add. Now notice I don't have to put a parentheses because that's calling a function. I'm just passing in the function in this case. But once I say this add, now where this return operator is doing, what it's really saying is return add 10, comma 5. And so what it's doing is it's going and then running this function within, getting the value that's returned, and then here is my value. That's what it equates, right? Hence we get 15. So again, when we're passing in our function, this is called a callback function. The function that's being passed in as an argument is what we call our callback function. The function that is taking in the function as an argument is our higher order function. And then this will, whatever we call it, will take on the identity as whatever function we passed in. So if I do the same thing with subtract, right? That's instead of add, it would just be subtract. This is sort of what it's doing under the hood. Subtract 10 and 5. So then I should get 15 and I should get 5. Should be my 2 that I have. So I get 15 and then 5, right? Because it takes on the identity, whatever function I'm passing through. Okay. I'm reading chat. Would I use the rest operator if I wanted to allow for several variables that could be added together? Depends on what you're trying to do, Cameron. Sorry, I'm not quite understanding. Jennifer said, can you only have one operator? Let's check. Let's try it, right? What if I say operator 1 and then operator 2? Oops. Perfect. Now, instead of returning, I'm going to console log operator 1 AB and then console log operator 2 AB. Let's test this. Now, in my function call, maybe I say add, multiply, and subtract, divide. Cool. And then it doesn't. Let's do this. I need this. And then I'm going to return. You guys do a comma, or is that just in Python? We'll say null. Doesn't matter. Because I don't need to console like this. And then I'll just say console.log Perfect. Try this. This is a long way of doing it all. Okay. But let's try it, right? You got to just try your code. So let's take everything from this and we get 15, 50, right? Which is 10 and 5 addition, 15, 5 and 10, multiply, 5 and 2. So yes, we can pass in multiple callback functions, and that's a normal thing, to our higher order function. Great question, Jennifer. Cool. Great. Now, why is this important? Well, because some of the built-in functionality that we're going to use is going to be a higher order function. And so we want to make sure that you have an understanding of what that means, right? So if I say the word higher order function, you will now understand exactly what that means. And there's really two higher order functions that we're going to apply and use frequently. Map is absolutely going to be the one that you're going to use all the time. And that's the way that we're able to iterate through things. And then filter is going to be a really great one when we're looking for certain things. And we'll have an explanation of both. Now, there's a little bit more information within this file that I might not go over, like this guy. Or maybe I'll go over it briefly, but if you guys are confused by it, don't even worry about it. I just like to add it because to show you sort of what's happening under the hood. But we'll get there when we get there. Cool. So what I want to talk about is this idea of map. And the way you can think about map is really, it is a for loop that allows us to iterate through some sort of array of objects and allows us to apply or do something to each object. So let's say that I had an entire list of or array of movies and I wanted to show all of their information. I'm saying, cool, I have some function that I just want to show all their information. Well, what I can do is I can use .map instead of doing some sort of for loop. I can just use .map because it's easier to read. And it's much easier to read, and it's a little bit easier for us to understand. But it allows me to do something to each iteration within my array. So again, it is a higher order function that takes in an argument, or takes in a function as an argument. It actually can take in up to 3 things. We'll look at that here in a second because it shows it on the platform. And it's used to iterate over an array. And the big thing here is to know that .map returns a new array. That's going to be a huge difference between that and filter, is it returns a new array here. So what do I mean by that? Let's say I've got this array of numbers right here, right? And we can do a .map on any sort of array. It doesn't have to be just an array of objects. It can be any sort of, just any array has the functionality of .map, what we call like a class method, meaning that as long as your item, in this case numbers, is of the type array, well, then it has access in the same way that, from a generic speaking perspective, a human can eat, right? Doesn't matter. I mean, obviously there's certain cases which are horrible, but as a human, your functionality, if you were the class human, whether you are wherever you're from or however you identify, doesn't matter, you can eat food, right? You sort of inherit that. Same idea, right? Any array of the, or any variable of the array class, which we haven't talked about classes, and we won't talk about that till 6. So don't worry, week 6 or 8, 7. Sorry, so don't worry about it. But can do it. Just know that any array can do .map, whether it's objects or of tuples or doesn't matter. And so here we've got this array of numbers, right? And then I'm saying const doubled numbers. Now remember, it returns a new array. So if I'm wanting to set or take this value and do something with it, I need to set it equal to something. So in this case, if I'm wanting to take this and have doubled numbers, and I want to keep track of that, I need to set it equal to, because that's what it returns. And then I say the array. So in this case, it's called numbers. But if this was called unicorn, it'd be a unicorn.map. And .map takes in up to 3 things. Now let's go to the platform because I want to show that. It can take in up to 3 things. The first thing is it's your item, right? And so as it's iterating through, it's going to look at your actual item itself, or that specific item. Let's go down to the bottom. So it's the current value. So the way you can think about it is like with a for loop, right? If I'm starting at 0 and if I'm going by the index, I just take that first one and whatever that value is at array of I, which is 0, right? And so it's just taking that value instead of having to deal with that whole index and for loop thing. We can just say, hey, grab me the first thing. I want you to go step by step. And so in this case, the first one, it's just 1, right? That is the current value. The second thing that map takes in or has is the index position. And so it will give me an index position of 0 in this case, of 1. And the third thing is it actually takes in and has access to the entire array. So if I wanted to print that, or if I wanted to do something to that, I could, right? We're really going to deal with current val, and then we will deal with index for a little bit. We'll talk about why that's going to change here in a bit, or maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll have time today. But we're gonna use these two, right? Rarely will you use this, but just know you have access. Those are the 3 things that it can take in. And if we're looking at MDN here, let's see. Yeah, so it's callback function, and then this argument takes in the 3 different values. Cool. Great. So what it does in this case is we're calling it number. You can call it current val. You can kind of call it whatever you want. And then, well, what are you wanting to do? What are we wanting to apply to each iteration? Now, remember, this is just allowing us to apply something to each iteration. So it's saying, cool, I'm at number, and number currently is this guy right here, right? And I'm saying, cool, well, I want to take that value and I want to multiply it by 2. And it says, okay, great. And then it's a for loop. So then it goes to the next one. And it says, okay, well, I want to take 2 and I want to multiply it by 2. Great. 3, 4, 5, and it keeps going on and so forth, just like a for loop. And again, because it returns a new array, doubled numbers will now become whatever that is doubled. And now we get 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. The main things to take away here is number refers to this guy right here. Like if I were to say number and then I were to say IDX, I could do that, right? You can see that this callback function takes in number. So in this case, it's a value, the index, which is a number, and then the array itself. And so this is just saying, cool, I want you to return this number. That's okay. And not doing anything with our index, but we totally could if we wanted. And we'll see here in a bit when we're actually iterating through this, and you'll see sort of what that does. We'll see actually in the code what that looks like, because we'll need to do that or else React's going to throw a little fit. Cool. And so we saw that we were able to do that. Any questions on .map? Again, I'm gonna show you what it actually looks like when we're in code. And so from a high level, it might not make as much sense right now. But basically you can think about it as it's a big for loop that we can apply and or do certain pieces of information with each iteration. Yay, Jennifer, I'm so glad that it makes sense. Wonderful. Okay. The other big one that we're going to use is filter. And what filter is it's also a higher order function. And what it does is it allows us to take in some information and only return values if a condition is true. So it's a little bit different. And so same sort of concept though. So we're not straying too far from the path, but instead of doing something to each iteration, it's going to check each iteration for a certain condition. Now, can anybody tell me what this condition is doing? Anybody know, or anybody know what this is called? You can go off mute if you'd like.
Modulus.
Modulus.
Yeah, exactly. And what's that do?
It gives you the remainder if you divide the function by whatever the second value is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you guys didn't know, what modulus will do is it'll just take this number and it'll say, what is the remainder if I put this number into, in this case, we have a number, right? If I put, how many times does 2 go into whatever the number is and what's left over? And just a quick way that we can make sure if something is even or odd is by recognizing, hey, if something is even, if I put 2 into it, there's going to be no remainder, right? Because it's even, so there's nothing that remains. But if there is a remainder, which it's only going to be 1, right? Because if it's even, it kind of makes sense. Then we know that it's odd. And so as developers, we can just say very quickly, if we want to know if something is even or odd, we can do modulo 2. And then we say, hey, if that equals 0, then we know that that's even. Or if I said something like does not equal 0, that would mean, hey, if this is odd, right? That's the same thing as if I were to say something like equals 1. This would now get me all of the odd numbers. So again, map is I want to apply and or do something to each value. Filter is I want to go through each value and I only want to return the ones where the condition that I give is true. And so what this is doing is same sort of thing, returned this, or we're setting this equal to this value. And then I'm saying, cool, I want to go through and I want to check, and if they're even, let's add this in here. Now, if I check this and I run this, I should get 2 and 4, right? Yep, and I get 2 and 4, right? If I were to flip it though and say not equal to 0, run this, I should get 1, 3, and 5. So now I'm able to get it odd and even. So filter allows me to apply some sort of condition. This is going to be big, especially in the belt exam. So if you want to say something like, or for the to-do list, let's say that we wanted to get we wanted to get all the completed on one end. We wanted to have it completed and not completed. We could have some sort of state where we could say where blank is not, true, right? If we had some Boolean state of like, is it completed or not, true or false? We could do a filter to get all the values where it's like, nope, this is false. Same sort of thing. You can do this with objects as well. You just would have to go in and say, like object.name equals Michael, and then it will get you all the ones that equal Michael, and all the, or not Michael, and it'll get you the ones that are not Michael as well. So that's the sort of main difference. Again, map is I want to apply something to each item. Filter is I want to give a condition and only give me the items where that is true, right? Where it does not equal 0 or it does equal 0 based on our condition. Those are really the two main higher order functions that we're going to deal with. Map is going to be the one where they're a lot as well. Like that's going to be the main one that we deal with. And so I want to show this. If this confuses you, then that's okay. It's confusing for me to even look at. But for anybody who likes to likes under the hood, well, what is exactly happening? This seems like a for loop. Well, this actually is what it is, right? So this array, remember I was saying that it's array is the class, right? And so if anything is set like this equals this array, if you were to look at the class or what type is this associated with, in the same way that I can do like a dot length on a array, but I can't do that on like a number because it's like, I don't know what number doesn't have a dot length method. The array class has a method called map. And all it is it's in itself a callback function. And this is all it's doing, right? It is creating a new array. This is literally under the hood what map is doing. It is iterating through, doing all of this confusing code. We are pushing to our new array. We have another callback function where we have this of I, and this, right? And then we return a new array. Instead of us having to do all that, we can just say dot map. Done. And so under the hood, this is what the prototype actually, like this is the actual method itself. This is what dot map is doing, but we don't have to do all of this confusing stuff. We can just say dot map. In the same way that if under the hood, like if I were to say something like array.prototype dot, I want to say like length, maybe an easier one. Ooh, it's just doing filter. It's not going to do dot length.
Is it maybe because of the misspelling and prototype?
Probably, huh? Let's see. Nope.
I think it's because of the capitalization of array.
Ray. Wonder if because I said yes, let's go and length definition. There we go. So this is taking in, like, this is exactly what it's doing under the hood. And if you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Yep, that's what we don't need to know, right? This is this idea. We're going to talk about pillars of OOP in week 7. This idea of abstraction. I don't need to know what this is doing in order for me to utilize this. But under the hood, this is whenever I call dot length, this is everything it's doing. I don't need to do that. I can just say dot length and it'll give me that. Same sort of thing with dot map. Again, if you're like, what? I need to understand this. You literally don't. You don't have to understand this. For anybody that likes to be under the hood and be like, oh, how is this working? That's why I always kind of show you that. But you do not need to know. Most developers do not know under the hood what dot map is doing. So cool. And then you can also chain. Just this is the last thing is you can chain these together, right? And so if I wanted to have numbers, which is already defined up here, that's why it's giving me an error. Yep.
You may,
So if you wanted to
when you
chain,
say, sorry, when you say chain them together, you mean the higher order functions with the callback functions?
I mean, like, yeah. So this is chaining, right? I think we've done chaining before. It just I had it different, but where I'm saying, cool, I want to filter, and it's going to filter all and get me all this stuff back, right? In the same way that dot filter is. And then once that's done, I'm going to say, cool, now go in there, and I want you to multiply all of these and apply this. So if I were to do this, let me show you. We just get 4 and 8 because if we remember, if I am doing filter modulo 2 equals 0, that means give me all of my evens. And so what it does is it goes and says, cool, I have this numbers. This is an array type. I can run dot filter, and it goes and it gives me back 2 and 4, just like this, right? Then it's saying, great, now that that's done, I'm chaining on, this is called chaining methods. This is advanced too. You don't need to do this for our exam either. Is I can then say, now that I've got all of my evens, I want you to get me all of the multiples of, or I want you to get me all of them times 2. And so I can do a dot map here. And so I just wanted to show you again, so that way you guys know, because in the industry, you will see chaining of methods. That's a common thing. So I just wanted you to know that that is possible as well. So you can, and what it does is it takes this, it applies filter. Once that's done, it gets us this guy right here. And then we're saying, cool, now I want to take that and I want each number, I want to iterate through this and I want to multiply each number by 2. And it goes, okay, great. That's what double even becomes. And so we get 4 and 8. 2 times 2, 4, 2 times 4, 8. So you can do that. Just wanted, again, not necessarily really even for this course, but I tried to give you guys as much information as you can have. So that way you're not thinking that you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what this is. Anytime this returns something. Now, if this didn't return anything, this would be an issue. You guys should have talked about this, I think in web fundamentals when you did like the banking assignment. And I think Python, you do it too, where you just chain methods together, just chaining functions together. But in Python, I think I had to return self or something like that. Okay. Now, any questions on this? I'm looking at my, I'll go look at the chat right now. Yep, so thank you, Teresa. That's exactly. So you're just adding on functions, and then once one is done, then it'll go on and run the other one. So once it got me all of my even numbers, I said, cool, I got all those. Now I can continue on. And I can say, great. And I could have done even more. Let's try something. If I break this or if I'm confusing you guys, please just put it in the chat. I'm confused and I will stop. But if I wanted to say filter, and I say number, oops, number is less than 4, or sorry, greater than 4. Now what this is gonna do, I have an extra, yep. Can anybody guess what this is gonna do? What is this gonna return to me?
It's gonna return 8.
The 8.
Yeah, how'd you guys get that?
It filtered number where number mod 2 is equal to 0, which gave
Uh-huh.
an array of 2 and 4, and then it mapped 2 and 4 to 4 and 8, and then it filtered 4 and 8 to numbers greater than 4.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Spencer. If I were to have, let's change this up to 2, 4, 5, 34, 18, and 79, we can see that it's going to then filter all of them, and it's going to get me 2, 4, 34, and 18. Then it's going to map and multiply all of those, and then it's going to give me all of the numbers greater than, which would actually be literally all of them except this top one. But we'll see. Here, let me do this real fast. I'm gonna just get rid of this. We'll run it, and then we'll test it. Cool, so we get 4, 8, 68, and 36. And then now if I were to say this, but I were to say, let's see, 38, or let's say 20, 26. Anybody have any guesses on what it's gonna return to me?
Mm, 68 and 36.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So let me explain this one more time. Is what this is doing is this is taking this array right here, and it's filtering and saying, give me all of the values where 2 modulo, or where the number modulo 2 equals 0, which is just basically saying, give me all the even ones. So if I were to then print or console log this, it's just going to give me 2, 4, 34, and 18. That's just this portion. 2, 4, 34, 18. Then we're saying, cool, now I want you to iterate through every single 2, 4, 34, and 18. Let's multiply that by 2. And it's going to say, cool, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 4, 18. 2 times 34 is 68. And 2 times 18 is 36. So that's what this equates. That's why I printed that. That's why I console logged it. Then what we're saying is, great, now take all of those numbers and only return the numbers that are greater than 26. So if I were to do this, just like podcast L says, we should get 68 and 36. So just so you know, you can chain multiple. It's not like you can just use filter once or twice. And this is a really powerful concept. Again, this is probably beyond the scope of what is necessary for the class. This is just a common like nomenclature. It's a common thing for you to know. So I wanted to make sure that you guys did know this. Cool. So that's all higher order functions are. Just that's it. Now, how is that in, like, how are we, what are we going to do that for? Let me just, because I already have the code made, so I'm just going to show you. So what does that mean? Because we only have 5 minutes left. I have our original PM start, and we'll go over lifting state tomorrow. This is a pretty chill week. Cool. So we have our code where I can say Shrek 2001, oops, comedy, and it comes here. Now, what this is doing, again, is if we're looking at our code, no, I gotta do this, sorry guys. I'll pull up my code first. Then we can have it. I'm very confused. Yeah, okay. I was confused because I thought it was supposed to have something else, but it didn't. This is the code that we wrote last week, right? Where we talked about state, where we were able to create this state of movie, and we decided as a class, you guys liked when we had it as one object compared to having them broken down. Now you can have them broken down, that's very okay. Makes it a little bit more challenging in some regards, especially for what we're about to do. But you can do that, right? Where you have each one sort of broken down. You would then just create a list of objects or an array of objects, and it can get a little bit confusing compared to what we have here. Now, we talked about how we wanted to keep track of all of those ones. So if somebody submits Shrek, I want to be able to keep track of that, right? I want to have that, and I want them to be able to submit another one and now just have this list in the sense of like, oh, that's a list of movies, but an array of these movie objects. We talked about having a change handler. This allows us to change, do our on change and have the same sort of thing. This is because we have this as one object. Again, this is all recap from last week. If you had them separate, you would have you could do it inline as well. But we're taking this event and then we're saying, hey, target name. Anybody know where this .name comes from? Anybody remind me?
From the form,
Yeah, what part? What specifically? What part of the form?
input name,
Yeah, the input name. What was the other value we could have done instead of name?
ID.
ID. Yeah, great job, Teresa. Yeah, so this is just saying, hey, we have this event object. Within there is a key of target, and in there we have name. We also could have ID. So if you wanted to go that route, we could. Now value is not as flexible, right? This is just whatever value is being put in the input form. And so we're taking that. Anybody remember why we have to do that? This spread operator? Anybody remember the specific reason?
So you get the whole of the get all the information that is held in the movie array.
Yeah, absolutely. What would have happened if I would have just put e.target.name and e.target.value? Don't mean to put you on the spot, Cameron. If you don't know, somebody else can answer.
Yeah, no, it would just be it would reset it.
Yeah, just reset the state every time, right? And
Yeah.
all movie would be an object of whatever that specific one, so we'd lose all of our fields. Great job. Cool. So then we had our form, we have our on change handler, we put this value here of these guys, and that's what allows us to reset, right? So once our form is submitted, we have this submit handler. We have to do ePrevent default. Anybody remember why we have to do that? What's that do?
So your
something from
page doesn't
refreshing.
reload. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So my page doesn't reload, just so my page doesn't refresh, and I get to keep my data, right? Great job. Then we're saying set all movies. And so what this is doing is this is taking this state of movies, and we're getting any movie that's currently in all movies. So we're getting all of those values. And then we're adding in our new movie, which is this state right here, right? And so this is what allows us to keep track of everything. And then this is the last part. This isn't super necessary, but I like to do it. It's just refresh because it's a better user experience. So now the user doesn't see what they just typed in. It's now empty and refreshed, right? But in order for that to visualize and show, we've got to have this value. And then we say movie.title, movie.genre, movie.year. Cool. So we did that. That's sort of where we stopped. Now, the last thing we want to do is I wanted to iterate through. And if we've got a array of some value, it doesn't have to just be an object to use map, but we have an array. As long as it's an array of something, numbers, or it's mixed data type, doesn't matter. Mixed data types would be challenging, but as long as we have that, we can use .map, right? And so I say all movies, this is my array, .map. Now it takes in two parameters or two arguments. In this case, we're calling it movie. Now remember, that is just referring to the first item in my array, right? Or at the beginning, once it starts, it's the first one, and then it keeps going on and on. And then this I, anybody remember what the second one was?
index,
Yeah, exactly. And then what's my third? If I wanted to have a third one, it would be the
You're right.
It's the array, right? Yeah, exactly. It's the array. I'm not going to do that. I don't need it, but I could. Now, the reason we do or let me just kind of backtrack. What we're saying is, great, we have movie. And so for each iteration, as we have, okay, the first movie, what do I want to do to it, right? Because map is what I want to do to it. I'm saying, cool, let's not worry about this for right now. I'm just saying, I want to grab its title. I want to grab its year, and I want to grab its genre, and let's put it in an li tag, because we're going to have an unordered list. Cool. And so what I'm doing is saying, cool, for this iteration, the first one is Shrek. It's going to say, cool, create an li tag as it's iterating through. Create an li tag for Shrek or movie.title, which Shrek's going to have a title or a key of title. The value is Shrek, a key of year, a key of genre. So it's going to go through. It's going to put that specific movie that we're referring to at that moment, that title, that year, that genre. Then once that's done, once it has all the information it needs, it's going to go up and it's going to grab the next movie and say, cool, now I create another li tag with that movie's title, that movie's year, that movie's genre. Cameron, I saw that you raised your hand.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, for the index for I right now, is that only really used for like referring to the index of a given item? So I guess I'm assuming it starts at 0 or 1 and then moves up as it goes up, right?
Yeah, it is. The reason we do this for now is because React likes us to have this key, so that way when we're referring to a specific object, so in this case, the first one, right, is so like, let's even test it and let's see if I can look up, let's inspect this. And I look up that and I go here and I see movies, I see this unordered list, I see this list item here, and I have Shrek 2001 comedy, but you see the 0? This is the key, right, of that. Now, React, and that's kind of what I was getting at, is right now we're just using index because React likes for us to have a unique identifier for each iteration. And so in this case, we're just using index. React in its actual documentation will say, hey, please don't use index, but like worst case scenario, use index. When we get to actual MongoDB and we have a unique identifier, an ID within our database, or that's attached to each document, that's what's going to go here. That's going to be our actual unique identifier. For right now, we just go ahead and put ID, or we just put I or index, because we don't want React to yell at us.
Right. So what my question was is it just an identifier, or can we apply like conditionals to modify the index? Is that like functionality that you use for this, or? So I'm thinking like,
do you mean
so I'm thinking like for a traditional, like for a statement, I would have my, index rising with each loop, and then I can have it where I can modify it based on, some conditional.
do you mean like the step? You modify the step, or what are you modifying specifically?
Yeah, the step.
No, yeah, we don't have, that map doesn't work that way. You do have to go one by one. Yeah,
that's what I was asking.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
it has
skip.
to be.
So that's where the filter would come in. If you only wanted specific values, that's where the filter would come in, and then you would map through. That's a great point, Cameron. Map does go through your entire array. Yeah, great question. And again, I just call this I, if I call this IDX, this would be IDX. I can do more things with this. Like if I wanted like another li tag, I could do that. Like if I wanted these each to be, like if I wanted to do something different, like I could. So you don't have to, you're not like stuck into just doing one-liners. But really what we're going to do is we're going to have this iteration. Usually what you could do is do like a div and then have another piece of information. So like, let's test it. Ooh, what is happening? Yuck. This does not look good. There we go. And I could do like a P tag that says something like movie title. And movie title in it. And then another one that says like P tag of movie year. A movie year. And then obviously vice versa for genre. It's not like I have multiple divs. Yeah, something like that. Cool. I probably broke my code. Oh no, I don't think it's running anymore. Nope. Did I break it? Nope. Cool. So if I said Shrek 2001 comedy, we see movie title Shrek 2001 comedy. And then I could do another one. Mario 2023 test. And then it'll give me another one. So it'll just iterate through each one and then it applies. Okay. Any questions on what we did today, guys? We're 8 minutes over. Yeah, map and filter, crush it. Makes it really, really fun. Makes it really, really enjoyable. But any other questions on what we've got, what we talked about, where we're going, what we're doing? If not, somebody said, sorry. Sorry. Somebody asked, how can I use this to style the color of an element? So in the same thing, right? Like, let's say you had, where's the code? Let's say you had some piece of state, right? You could just say, you know, color is, I don't know, you know, whatever. And then so within each element, you can actually just do like an inline style. Oops. And so that's going to be key whenever you're doing to-do list is you'll have to basically use some state. Like let's say we had, you know, I don't know, watched is false. And then we could then say, and maybe we'll do this in office hour tomorrow because I'll definitely go over time because in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is easy. And then I'll mess it up. But basically I could do some sort of conditional, right? That says, hey, if watched, then I want to strike it through. And if not, then keep it open. But that's what you could do if you're looking at the to-do list. Cool. Somebody said, why curly brackets instead? Oh, yeah, something to keep in mind is for JavaScript, again, when we're declaring JavaScript, we do curly brackets. And then why is this read as separation of the info instead of minus something since we Just covered operators. Why doesn't it cut the info out? That was just a dash. Now remember, this is HTML, right? So this is just a dash. This is just our HTML. What we were covering was strictly JavaScript. And so it operates differently, right? Within our numbers. Same sort of thing, how arrays have .map, numbers operate in different ways. So when we have this, because they're numbers, it infers that as a subtraction. Compared to here is just a dash within like a P tag, or in this case, an LI tag. We don't do some actual math. Now, if in this, I were to have like another div that just said, 2 + 2, then it would do that. But I'd have to identify and kind of make it abundantly clear that it's trying to do some addition. Quick questions though. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording here, and then we will stick around if there's any questions. Hope you guys have a wonderful night.